Hi everyone, welcome back. And today I'm talking about a topic that is quite interesting. In the last few years, really, the last 2 years, there's been an influx of battle royale games, most famously with PUBG, but a lot of AAA companies now are sort of bringing them into their games. So, for example, Call of Duty, they've stripped the single player campaign and replaced it with battle royale mode. Battlefield as well, it's going to be doing a battle royale as well. So that made me think about what would it look like if Assassin's Creed did, or Ubisoft in general did a battle royale mode. What would that look like? Now, Assassin's Creed has had multiplayer in the past, but it sort of was phased out fairly quickly. It started with Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and it sort of ended with Assassin's Creed Black Flag. There was co-op in Unity, but I don't think there was a dedicated sort of multiplayer section of that game like the traditional Ubisoft Assassin's Creed multiplayers were. What these were basically, you were sprung into an arena with lots of NPCs. Some of them were playable, some of them non-playable, and over the period of like a set amount of time you had to go and find each other and try to take each other out in interesting ways. So the person who survived at the end is the person who managed to evade or kill all the other people playing. So again, that does sound a little bit like a battle royale game, just not as big. So if they were interested in doing it, they could do it. I think one of the main problems people would find is because of the historical setting, they could do a modern day setting, but obviously the modern day setting in Assassin's Creed is never that popular. So I don't think they'd do that. But most of these battle royales rely on guns because you're going quite a long way from the map. I personally don't like battle royale games. I think you're playing for half an hour not seeing anyone, and then you die halfway across the map. But like I said, they are very popular. Now, I did mention a couple of weeks ago a battle royale game that's trying to get published, which is called Valhalla. This is sort of what I think a Ubisoft Assassin's Creed battle royale game would look like. That's because it's a focus on hand-to-hand combat with swords and shields and axes, rather than ranged combat. There is ranged combat, but the focus is on one-on-one fights. I don't think they'd do one on its own, a battle royale mode on their own. I think it would be tacked on to an Assassin's Creed game. But saying that, they are just doing recently the sailing game, Sea of Thieves, that's coming out soon, which is like a multiplayer version of Black Flag. So depending how popular that is, a battle royale game might come across. Now, if you put an example of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which they were going to do a battle royale mode sort of based around that game in that universe, what would that look like? Well, if it's a large map, I think it would be interesting if you had sort of water in the map, so you could actually, there'd be ships and stuff. So maybe 2 or 3 ships that you can use, or 1 or 2, that has to be crewed in order to move. So if you've got like a group of people, they could go on a ship and sort of hide it out until the end. But obviously another player or group of players could go and take down that ship. And the weapons would feel very much like the single player game. So you've got lots of different swords and axes and spears, javelins, bows and stuff like that. But I'm a little bit like the RPG elements that are being put across in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The idea that customization would have to be a really big factor. Or they could go down the route of For Honor, for example, and have particular heroes that you can choose that has a little bit of customization with that. Another thing, how would you close the map? Obviously, because a lot of them it's either bombing. Yeah, it's mainly just people are getting airstrikes, so the map's getting smaller because there's bombs happening or there's an infection. That can't really work in the Assassin's Creed universe. I think the only way that would work if it was set like during the sort of introduction of gunpowder, so you'd have like bombards that are bombing the whole area, but that would be very hard to, I think, bring across and have that timed element. So I think what would happen would be it would be a storm that would cause it. So you've got a storm that sort of is going across an island or the map, And so at each point you've got to go to the safe areas where there's cover, so you've got to wait for the storm to go over. I think that's how it would work. But another thing as well, how would this be like Assassin's Creed? Because even though people said the game is more and more not about the Assassin's elements, there has to have that element there. So, like I said, the idea, rather than having a big empty map where all the people in there are players, you could do it like the traditional Assassin's Creed multiplayer, where you've got NPCs that are wandering around different areas. And so you, as the player, could hide and assassinate other players and stuff like that. Obviously, people would feel there's cheating, so there had to be measures where, for example, you can only be in cover for a certain amount of time, so like 30 seconds, and then you've got to move. So I think that would make it fair. Obviously, Ubisoft has never said they're going to do Battle Royale, but and also people feel the genre is starting to slowly die out. Number counts are still high for stuff like PUBG, but a lot of these new sort of Battle Royales aren't getting as much popularity. But at the same time, with the introduction of sort of COD, Battle Royale and Battlefield, that might reignite people's interest, and also it might spur on other AAA companies and developers to actually do Battle Royale games, because especially with COD, that is always popular, so it might make very popular that game mode. These are just my initial thoughts. I thought it might make an interesting video. It's not really scripted, just my ideas off the top of my head. You never know, it might happen. I don't think it will, because Ubisoft has always concentrated on the single player aspect of their Assassin's Creed games. The multiplayer, like I said, the multiplayer section always felt tacked on. It wasn't as important as a single player game. I mean, I've never actually played one of the multiplayer modes from like Assassin's Creed Brotherhood to Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but you never know, they might bring it back for next release, especially if they're doing it yearly. It might sort of freshen the franchise and make people interested, but as things go, there is short-term windows between stuff is really popular. There is short-term windows between how stuff is popular. Like, for example, there was the hero shooter, and that sort of died now pretty much, and at the moment it's a Battle Royale. But it might move into something else quite soon, depending on what game gets released. But like I said, that was my initial thoughts, so thank you so much for listening and watching. If you've got any thoughts about an Assassin's Creed Battle Royale game, that would be quite interesting to hear. If you enjoy my content and you want to see more in the future, please subscribe, that would be fantastic. And please like the video if you enjoyed it and want to see more of this sort of content in the future. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.